Catch D.E.I. Chapter 1. Hancock School of Business and Creative Destruction, Williamson Hall. As people began to settle down in Williamson Hall, the sounds of quiet conversation filled the spacious room. Hushed whispers blended to create a wall of white noise. Clearing his voice into the microphone, Dr. Ash stood on a carpeted platform in the front center. I just want to start by saying thank you so much for coming out to the annual ASSBURN conference. You will be hearing more in the coming days, but I cannot wait for everyone to see what we have in store for you. He paused, and the room was filled with the sound of short, polite clapping. If you look at the table in front of you, each of you should have a piece of paper with the itinerary for this year's conference. We made the irregular move this year of not sending the itinerary in advance and ask that everyone refrain from sharing it outside of this room. While saying this, Dr. Ash held up a copy of the itinerary. Papers quietly shuffled. As you can see, we will not be having any seminars this time around. Those of you that expected to be invited to present and did not receive an invitation, I hope you can see you are not alone. Professional laughter barked out, but the attendees' eyes began to look around. Across the room, people shifted with visible discomfort. Whatever was about to happen was not what they had signed up for. I'm going to try and cut to the chase. In this room is the chair and most highly cited 3 professors from every major research institution globally. This room represents the top of the top in terms of what this field has to offer the world. Again, polite laughter and a smattering of claps. Even a few friendly backslaps could be seen. However, our field of applied micro-business physiognomy has been suffering from a major replication crisis. Last month, across the top 3 journals, a total of 5 of the 20 most recent publications have been forced to be retracted due to serious accusation of scholarly impropriety. At these words, they became completely silent. Blood appeared to drain from the faces of almost every attendee. Dr. Ash continued speaking, unperturbed. Of course, this is a complicated topic. I myself have had 3 recent publications withdrawn after a coding error was discovered. Candidly, I'm not surprised, as like many of you, I entered this career simply because I didn't know what else to do with my life. A woman shrieked, but otherwise, the room continued to be totally silent. The shock was slowly transforming into rage. Here at Hancock, we have been facing year-over-year budget cuts as both the number and quality of our PhD students have declined. In many ways, you can think of this year's conference as an attempt to right the ship, so to speak. The silence was being gradually replaced with muttering. Dr. Ash realized he had about 30 seconds left before Williamson Hall was transformed into pandemonia. This is why I propose a new approach. Instead of trying to expand the scope of research, we should instead focus on those topics in which we have the strongest expertise. A new era of replication must emerge where we confirm the results that matter instead of wasting our time chasing unicorns. Professors were beginning to stand up and shout. Soon, even with the microphone, he wouldn't be able to be heard. Dropping the itinerary and grasping the microphone with both of his hands, Dr. Ash screamed above the growing chaos. I refuse to write another line of code, and I'll be damned if I give up this chair. Silence fell like a curtain. Lowering his voice again, he spoke shakily. Everyone, let's be honest. Since the first Smith et al. 1898 paper showing the relationship between bone structure and free cash flow, we have been doing nothing but dancing around a central idol. Look at just this list of papers published in the last 5 years. Nose shape and adjusted EBITDA. Evidence from a Congolese mining conglomerate. Exogenous variation in jaw size and debt covenant renegotiation success. Hand size and employee satisfaction. And my personal favorite, skincare routine and CEO compensation package convexity. Who here even reads papers anymore when they write a referee report? I've been sending them to PhD students for years as part of their education, and recently I realized they don't even read them either. As the editor of SNEERR, I cannot even begin to articulate how many times I've received 3 referee reports. Saying this, he held up 3 fingers, pinky held by thumb. Each, one, identical. With each word, he lowered a finger. So, let's just stop pretending. Instead, I propose we each show that the basic results in Smith et al. Still hold in the modern world. For the first time since he had begun talking, Dr. Ash stood silent. Time seemed to slow to a pause as each of the professors and PhD students realized what Dr. Ash was suggesting. Sitting at a small table in the corner, a group of Japanese professors were the first to speak. Dr. Sato, Professor Emeritus at the University of Tokyo, and 7 times distinguished teaching faculty, despite having never taught a class, stood up. Dear Dr. Ash, are you suggesting we pivot to replication as a tool to increase the field credibility? Dr. Ash smiled. Yes, Dr. Yamamoto, is that right? That is exactly what I'm calling for. Bowing slightly, Dr. Sato sat down. Once again the room broke out in hushed conversation. Every table discussed what had just taken place. For almost an hour, Dr. Ash and the other professors in charge of hosting ASSBURN sat looking around the room. Sound came in waves as conversations turned jovial and then aggressive. Looking to his right, Dr. Ash caught the eyes of a PhD student standing against the wall. His face was stretched in an almost comical smile, so wide it appeared to touch his ears. Dr. Ash knew why he was smiling. Standing up again, he coughed into his microphone and spoke. A pivot of this scale requires consensus, so I wanted to hold a vote before we proceed. Unless this is unanimous, we should call off the rest of the conference. If you support the proposed change, please raise your hands. Every single hand in the room went up. After the 3-day conference, the following document was produced.
Research Modernity and Replication. In an unprecedented move within our scholarly community, we hereby announce a shift towards a foundational approach aimed at reinforcing the integrity and credibility of our field. The Annual Conference of Applied Microbusiness Physiognomy Researchers, ASBURN, has unveiled a transformative agenda that underscores the urgency of addressing the replication crisis and scholarly impropriety that have cast shadows over our collective work. In a world of high-impact research and ever-changing business practices, it is of paramount importance that every field confirms the major results, which form the bedrock of our research, are strong. The crisis at hand. Recent revelations have brought to light that a significant fraction of research within the realm of applied microbusiness physiognomy, AMBP, a field that traces its origins to seminal work by Smith et al., 1898, is plagued by issues of replicability and ethical concerns. This builds on a long series of critiques from major news publications about the foundational results of the field. Without a strong basis, it is impossible to battle these uninformed criticisms. The issue of replication is common across all fields of academia. However, AMBP will continue its long tradition of cutting-edge research by directly addressing any concerns. Because this crisis not only undermines the trust in our scientific endeavors, but threatens the very fabric of our society and civilization. A call to arms. It is with this backdrop that we call upon every member of our global community to embark on a journey of rigorous replication studies. Our collective mission is to reaffirm the veracity of key findings that have shaped our understanding of the intersection between physiognomy and business microdynamics. This initiative is not a step back, but a leap forward, acknowledging that the strength of our field lies in the reliability and ethical conduct of our research. Scope of replication. Historical baseline, revisit and replicate pivotal studies, beginning with the landmark study by Smith et al., 1898, to ensure that their conclusions stand firm under contemporary scrutiny. Data. Pursue an aggressive policy of ensuring data used in prior studies has been robustly cleaned. Methodological rigor. Employ state-of-the-art methodologies and statistical analyses to ensure the highest level of precision and reliability in foundational results. Collaborative effort. This initiative demands a collaborative spirit, transcending institutional boundaries and geographic locales. We encourage the formation of replication consortia, bringing together researchers from diverse backgrounds and expertise to undertake this crucial work. Editors of SNIR, EFAC, and PEAN have all committed to only publishing high-quality replications until faith has been restored in the foundations of scientific research. Funding and publication opportunities. Recognizing the resource-intensive nature of replication studies, a dedicated fund has been established to support these endeavors, but this is just the start. Specifically, AMBP departments call on institutions to increase their funding to accommodate the essential nature of the replication crisis. This includes the expansion of research facilities to accommodate state-of-the-art replication laboratories. Critically, though, without a strong investment in both the PhD and current faculty research budget and an expansion of the scope of covered costs, it is impossible to make the crucial changes that are required to restore trust in our institutions. Conclusion. Our field stands at a crossroads, facing challenges that question the very core of our scientific pursuit. Yet, it is in these moments of trial that we find opportunities for growth and reaffirmation. Let us unite under the banner of integrity, rigor, and ethical scholarship to steer our field toward a future where trust, reliability, and truth prevail.
Chapter 2. Hancock School of Business and Creative Destruction, Dean Lamar's office. Lamar looked at the email from Levon Ash for a long moment. He had heard about Levon's recent retractions. In fact, he had been forced to sit through hours of meetings with the legal team regarding Hancock's liability. Lamar got a sinking feeling that Levon was trying to pull something over either him or the university, but a piercing pain was already forming behind his temples, and he couldn't even make it through the entire proposal. From what he was reading, it appeared that the ASSBURN conference had been a spectacular success. Within the HSB news had already been spreading about how bold and forward-thinking the physiognomists were with their proposal. Just this morning he had received a questioning email from the New York Trumpeter, hoping to write a story covering the new approach to academia. How the reporter had found out Lamar had no idea, but he had a sinking suspicion that it had something to do with Levon. Replying to the email, Lamar typed out a short response. "Hey Levon, thank you so much for sending this proposal along. Of course, a change of this magnitude will have to be put up for a vote in the Faculty Senate, as well as open to a veto by the Board of Overseers. I think it's a great idea, and this change has my full support. Best, Lamar." Lamar reread the email quickly. He changed Lamar to Dean James and clicked send. Congratulating himself on the brilliant idea of kicking the proverbial can down the road, he turned back to the much more pressing issue. China had texted him at almost exactly the same time as he had received the email from Levon, probably the origin of his headache. The specifics of her text had something to do with changing the flooring in the kitchen in Virginia, but he hadn't wanted to open the actual text for fear of her seeing that he had read the message. He had to respond now, though. If he waited any longer, it would only make the problem worse. China, 8:51 a.m., 3:12. So I've been chatting with Virginia about our kitchen floor, and she agrees the linoleum needs to go, given we live in the dean's house. This really seems like something the university should cover. They are forcing us to live like animals. China, 8:53 a.m., 3:12. Recently, Beth almost tripped on one of the bubbles that had formed. It's fucking disgusting, and if the university doesn't do something about it, I will. Lamar finished reading, and whatever doubt he had about the existence of a headache evaporated. It was there, and it was there to stay. Typing slowly so as not to make any errors, China hated it when he made spelling errors. She said it made him appear unprofessional. He responded. Lamar, 9:37 a.m., 3:12. Sorry for taking so long to respond. I was helping get a new initiative off the ground that will be a great career step. Hopefully she liked that. So, I'm not sure what exactly the university can do about the flooring. After we replaced the cabinets, I had someone in the finance department double-check the rules, and we can only replace items that are in some way dangerous. Instantly, she responded, simply emphasizing the message about Beth almost tripping. Pain pulsed in the front of his skull, almost making him throw up. The taste of acid and his morning acai bowl washed up and filled his mouth. Only a timely sip of coffee averted disaster. But at least she hadn't typed anything, and there wasn't any way she could expect him to respond. Returning to his screen, Lamar stared blankly at the bright white email inbox screen. Every few seconds, a new email came in, followed by the chime of a synthetic bell to announce its arrival. Thoughts on recent football team performance? Ding. Following up about Thursday. Ding. Lunch? Ding. Urgent. Faculty evaluation, due tomorrow. Ding. 300 years of excellence celebration, 4.1. Ding. Each email seemed to pile onto the mountain of unread emails just from this morning, one by one, like grains of sand in an hourglass. Slowly, his screen was filled with unread emails. With a single click, he inverted the hourglass, marking all of the emails as read, only for it to begin slowly filling up again. A knocking sound came from the doorway. His management aide, often abbreviated to maid, stood in the doorway. Lamar did not know her name and instead simply referred to her as the White One. Hey, just wanted to give you the heads up. Levon is outside and he seems like he wants to chat with you about something. Tried to explain you are busy. At these words, she glanced around his office. But he was insistent on talking to you. Levon was a strange man, but trying to barge into his office like this was uniquely strange. In general, faculty tended to leave Lamar alone. He thought this had something to do with his unique background, investment banking. But even still, it was rare to try and meet with people like this. Let him in. The White One slipped back into the small landing room in front of the dean's office. In just a few moments, Levon entered the room and looked around as well. Lamar had chosen to replace the traditional wooden bookshelves with something much more modern. The actual decision had been China's. However, once he had removed the shelves, it was discovered that the Hancock founding document required that no book once placed on the shelf could be removed. This created a precarious, almost comical situation now, where thin white pressed wood bookshelves bent and sagged beneath the weight of ancient books. He hated it, but the university only allocated a specific amount of money for refurbishment, and he had long ago exceeded that amount. Cutting directly to the chase, Levon spoke. Interesting what you've done to the place. I wanted to talk to you about the email you sent me. Lamar's headache intensified. A small black circle was growing in the bottom left corner of his vision and began to take most of his attention. I'm glad we are on the same page. I wanted to directly discuss the problem of funding. Levon paused to see if Lamar's face would change at all, and misunderstood the twisted, painful expression as related to the funding request. Yes, I know the program has been struggling to attract course enrollment, but we really think this is the start of something new in academia. Levon spoke quickly again, misunderstanding Lamar's expression. You've read over my proposal. He hadn't, and so you know that what we really need is an expansion in our research budget. Right now, it's basically impossible to spend it on anything. Lamar nodded somberly, only hearing about half of the words Levon was saying, and committed to getting this conversation over with as quickly as possible. I think simply bringing us in alignment with the Department of High Finance, or at minimum low finance, would be a good start. Levon paused again, waiting for Lamar to say anything. Misunderstanding the silence, he continued speaking. Look, we would even be okay with simply bringing us back up to where we were adjusted for inflation when I started here 20 years ago. But even more than the actual number, what matters is flexibility. At this word, Lamar jolted. Flexibility. Smiling, Levon spoke. Yes, flexibility. The rising pitch intensified Lamar's headache. Look, the whole purpose of this initiative is to begin a process of redefining and recentering what exactly we even mean by research. Unless we do something aggressive, schools like Yale and Stanford will beat us to the punch. Levon, look, I'm not opposed to any of this, and I know how much you have helped me out in the past. Subconsciously, his eyes were drawn to Levon's sparkling Swiss watch. But honestly, this is up to the faculty senate to decide. Levon looked pensively out the window for a moment. Already, the Massachusetts snow was beginning to give way to a muddy mess. Soon, black flies would be swarming every corner of campus. You know, I've been thinking about that. I'm not sure we need to go through the faculty senate at all. Again, Lamar got a feeling that Levon was trying to pull something over on him, but again he couldn't tell what. The sharp pain behind his eyes and the growing empty corner of his vision were not making uncovering the scam any easier. See, technically, we are entitled to more money given the nature of our program. Levon smiled at these words, and suddenly Lamar knew what his plan was. You mean the fund for RP, don't you? Yes, exactly. Levon, we have already committed to using that money for something else. That money is earmarked. See, Lamar, this is precisely what I wanted to talk to you about. You owe me. Change it. For a full minute, Levon stared directly at him. Finally, Lamar, breaking eye contact, nodded. His head throbbed with pain, and if this removed the debt he owed Levon, so be it. He didn't care one way or another. Fine, the money is yours. Levon stood up and headed for the door. As he was exiting, Lamar spoke. Levon, that settles us. I don't owe you anything. Levon smiled and left the room, leaning back in his aesthetically pleasing but deeply uncomfortable, real trademark, leather ergomatic, bright white chair. Tears of pain filled his eyes. Ding, 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 ding.